Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Kay, and I'm here today to review Swagger Season 1, Episodes 6 and 7. We're going to start with Episode 6, called All on the Line. It says Jason and his teammate deals with the aftermath of their actions. Musa found out his grandfather has tested positive. So, the situation that Jace and Musa and Drew and Phil, of course, you know, they decided to handle Crystal's coach. And so Jace still never told them why they did it, but Phil did kind of figure out, like, that was Crystal's coach. What did he do to her? And then Jace was like, I can't tell you. So basically, like, they told him they did it for Crystal, and they know they did it for Crystal, but they don't know why they did it. Musa decided that with everything going on, that it was a lot for him to try to handle. So he decided to go to California with his mother to help take care of his grandfather. And this is when things during the panorama start like ramping up. You know, there were more people who were testing positive, and so they were letting them play basketball, but they had to do all these different methods of social distancing and taking rapid tests and everything like that to try to maintain, like, everybody to stay healthy. This was also the episode where the coach found out what was going on with Phil's situation. Ike, being the coach, found out what was going on with Phil's situation. Things just didn't seem right with Phil, and so Phil's father came looking for Phil at Ike's house. He didn't know where Phil was, and he hadn't heard from Phil. And so, of course, Ike didn't know anything, but Drew knew. So Drew had Phil at his house, and so Phil had been staying the night there, I guess, almost every night because, you know, Phil's dad was working late or whatever. But Phil's dad came to the coach's house saying he hadn't heard from Phil that day. And so, of course, with Ike's wife, Tanya, being a CPS worker, she basically was like, something is going on. So they called Phil and they had a talk with Phil, and they went and met Phil at Drew's parents' house. And so immediately Drew went into protective mode, trying to protect Phil. He was willing to do whatever to protect Phil because he knew what was going on with Phil, but nobody else did. And so Phil would say things, but he wouldn't say everything, because the main thing was, even though his father was not treating him well, Phil still loved his father, and he didn't want anything bad to happen, you know, because at the end of the day, that was his father. And at 14, that was a hard like position for him to be in. And so I'm not gonna say Phil felt attacked, but he kind of felt like put on the spot. So Ike's wife, Tanya, she ended up saying that she needed to go on a walk, and so her and Phil just took a walk. And so she basically just tried to like calm Phil down and just like talk to him, let him know that she was there for him, and just, you know, provide support to him. And basically Phil, you know, opened up to her some, but he still was very reluctant on what to say to her because, again, he didn't want to make it seem like his father was a bad guy. So he started crying, and she was just there to comfort him. Also, during this episode, this was the first episode where we see where Jackie is vocal about being slighted. During the other episodes, you could tell, like, Jackie kind of, even though Jackie was the older sibling, she kind of lived in Jay's shadow. She felt like her mom did everything for Jace, but her mom just didn't value the things that she wanted. She felt like her mama didn't feel like the things that she was interested in, the things that she had to do was important. And Jackie had this really big step show that she had a solo in and she wanted to participate in. And she was feeling like pressure because she wanted to perform well and there were going to be, a lot of people there. And so Ike and Tanya ended up going, and then Jace was there, and then her mom was there or whatever. And so prior to this, Jackie's mom asked her to find out all this stuff on Ike or whatever. And so, Jackie necessarily didn't feel comfortable doing it because she was just like, you doing the most. But because her mom was like, well, you look up everything else you want to look up. I'm just asking you to find this one thing out for me. Can you just do that for me? And so Jackie, went along with it or whatever. And it's just crazy because, like, this episode, I felt like Jace's mom was doing a lot. I know, like, again, she had good intentions, but it was just the way she went about doing things that made the situations more complicated. And so they all ended up going to the performance, but she ended up leaving because she had like a cosmetics party. And if y'all know, I'm gonna call it Lady Egyptian just for the sake, because the bags were purple. Y'all know on the Parkers, Nikki used to sell cosmetics and it was in the purple bag, and she worked for Lady Egyptian. That's if y'all, Parkers watchers, y'all know, y'all get that. But I honestly didn't even know people still sold cosmetics like that. I didn't know they still had, like, people who, I just thought everybody was going to the store and getting their makeup versus buying from somebody like, back in the day, we had Avon and Mary Kay. But, but she enjoyed, selling and doing makeup and showing women how to, beautify themselves. That became, like, her outlet. But she ended up leaving so she could host a party because she ended up telling Jackie that she needed to make money because she make way more money from that job than her little job at the gas company. But it's just the fact that, like, was Jackie disrespectful to her mama and what she said? Yes, but was she wrong? She was okay. She was a little disrespectful in what she said, but what she said was still very valuable because it needed to be said. She needed to let her mama. She needed to let her mama know how she felt because she did feel slighted. Her mama never missed anything for Jace. Her mama was always going above and beyond. I mean, getting up at 4:45 to go outside and make Jace train. Like, she never missed a game. She was always there for Jace. And then one time Jackie needed her to be there for her and to be proud of her. She decided that she needed to work. And I hate that, oh God. Sometimes I just feel like, as a parent, I feel like parents be like, well, I need the money. But honestly, kids don't care about the money. They care about you being there. And when she said after the show, everybody's parent was there congratulating them, telling them how good they did and mine wasn't, I felt so bad because I was just like, oh, wow, like, I'm not even gonna hold you. Like, that kind of stuff matters. Like, when you come from your game and you turn to that stand and your mama and your daddy ain't there and everybody else hugging and leaving with their parents, bruh, I understand. I understood. I was right there with Jay. I was like, Jackie, girl, we here. I understand. Like, and it's crazy because I told my husband, I was just like, when we finally do have children, my number one thing that I'm going to do is make sure that I'm there all the time for my children when they are participating in something. I don't want to miss not one single thing. I don't care about no job. I already told him that off rip. Like, I don't care nothing about no job because there's nothing more there's nothing in this world that matters more than your kid, being there for your kid when they doing something. Even if they lose, even if they play bad, even if, if they did good. They just want you there. It don't matter. Just knowing that you are sitting over there and they can turn when they feel away and look at you and you can, anything. Just knowing that you're there, it just makes such a difference. And I'm not even going to hold you. Like, there were times where I played my games and I looked over there and my mama wasn't there or my daddy wasn't there. And it made me sad. I know, like, now at the tender age of 31, I know, like, they was working, and because they had to provide for the family. But at the end of the day, that money, like, her making that money from that party didn't matter. What mattered was her daughter being there, because when they look back on life and they think about that memory, they're not going to think about, oh, my mama had to work. I understand. They're going to think my mama wasn't there. So, also all in the line, that's also the episode where, Crystal had that conversation with her teammate. After they found out that the coach got hurt, it was going to be a while that the coach was going to be in the hospital or whatever. And so one of the teammates said, can we lead a prayer for coach or whatever? And Crystal and her teammate had their eyes open, and that's when they had that little moment of like, girl, I understand. And so they had that little conversation and talked, and it's just the same things that he did, to Crystal. He tried to bribe that same girl with it. And so it was just crazy. So episode 7, which I probably will talk the most about, and I'm going to try my best to remain calm while I'm saying this because I want the message to be heard. Episode 7 was called Radicals, okay? So what happens is the episode starts off with them getting on the bus. They're leaving and going to Virginia. I'm not going to even go there on Virginia because Virginia be having some stuff going on, y'all. They just pray for them. Pray for their state. Being Houston. The episode is called Radicals. So basically, they're on the bus, they're going to the game, they're going to a tournament. The tournament is being hosted by Gladiator, and of course, Gladiator is now sponsoring that Team Dominion that Nick came from. So they're going to Virginia, and if you've never been to Virginia before, there are parts of Virginia that are progressive, and there are parts of Virginia that are not. And that's just the way I can put it. And I can attest to it because my brother went to school and played football in a part of Virginia that was not progressive, and they let them flags fly, okay, and didn't care. And y'all know what flags I'm talking about. So they decided to stop at a diner to get something to eat, and of course, there's some people sitting in there, and they're looking. They see a team full of African American boys coming in to eat, and immediately some people are on the fence. And so by the time they sit down, they're eating their food, the police arrive, and they tell them that there has been a disturbance that has been called in and that they need to pack up and leave. And so Ike tries to explain to them, the police, that there's no disturbance. They're just sitting down eating. They're on their way to the game. And so the police asked them, are they protesters? And he was like, no, we're just a team. We're eating and we have a game later. And so then, of course, Phil has already left. Phil has gone to the bathroom. And while they're having this encounter, Phil comes out and jumps and makes a loud noise, and they pull like at their waist. And this whole episode honestly was hard to watch because this was also during a time in the country where there was a lot of there was a lot of injustice going on with the police and civilians and the way police treat people when they're detained. And there was a lot of protesting. There's a lot of protesting going on because of the injustices. There was a lot of protesting going on because of the unfair treatment of workers, the essential workers and everything. And so there were already a lot of protests going on in Virginia because during this time, I think it wasn't Eric Garner. It was, what's his name? Y'all, that man's name is escaping me right now. Don't be mad at me, y'all. But his protest, the loss of his life shook the world. I'm trying to think of his name. It's not coming to me right now. But it was a lot going on. It was a very heavy time. I remember that time. I remember sitting at home watching. I mean, it was everywhere. You couldn't be on social media. You couldn't watch TV without seeing it. And even like in some places, like I know here in the city I'm in, like there was protests going on during that time where they had to shut down the highway because people had taken over the highway. Like it was that many people. And with the guys being 14, they just knew that they was being treated unfairly and that they didn't deserve that. And so there was a couple back and forth between some of the players and the coaches on what they wanted to do, but they just, Ike and Musa's father, Raheem, told them to be quiet. And so they asked for IDs. And they only picked up Musa's father's ID and Ike's ID. They didn't pick up Meg's ID. And so right then, Meg knew what was up. And so basically, some of the guys and Jace, some of the guys, was telling the police, we're not going nowhere, we need to eat. And he asked them, did they have any outstanding warrants? And so there are people in the restaurant that are recording the situation. There are some people who walk by who try to intervene and say they didn't do anything, but the police ain't trying to hear that. And they basically just end up getting on the bus. So everybody's mind is just not in the best place when they get to the gym where the game is being held. And so Ike gets off the bus and tells the guys that we need to get our heads ready. We got this game or whatever. And they just ain't feeling what Ike's saying. So they walk off and end up going to the locker room. Ike pulls Jace back and was like, you supposed to lead the team, Jace. I need for you to get them to where they need to be to play this game. And he was like, I tried to, but you held back. He was like, but you don't understand. He was like, I would rather you be mad at me and not talk to me versus me having you here. Because he was like, at the end of the day, whether you yelled back or not, all they saw was a black face. They didn't care about nothing you were saying. Which he's not lying. It's just a simple fact that, like, that group of boys are trying to achieve their dreams, and all they doing is sitting there fellowshipping as a team, and they were viewed as a threat sitting there. And that's the problem with, like, a lot of stuff that goes on in this country. A lot of people feel like they can just do and say things because they want to, and that's not the case. Sometimes I feel like this country is the biggest hypocrite ever, because you can have something that says freedom and justice for all, and, like, for example, that announcer, when I ain't got to the game yet, when they started shouting and saying crazy stuff at the game, but people in the stand started shouting and saying crazy stuff at the game because after what they faced at that diner, they took a knee at the game. And two things in imagery immediately stuck out to me at that game. They had that flag on the wall, one, and two, outside of the gym, they had a statue that had a soldier for the North and a soldier for the South, and saying we celebrate both sides. And that's the problem with America. They celebrate both sides, and they condemn the side that fought for what was right, but celebrate the side that fought for what was wrong. And that's the problem. People always are saying, well, everybody fought for this country and you disrespectful, like they're not people who look like me who fought for this country as well. And sometimes was the first ones out in front for this country. But them and their families didn't get no respect. When them soldiers was coming home, they was going over in the 60s fighting for this country because America was saying there's something in other countries that they was doing wrong. When America had the biggest blemish in this country that was going on, people was outside getting bit by dogs, attacked by dogs, hosed down, and gunned down in the street. But America was looking at whatever else is going on in other countries. And America still does that to this day. All this stuff is going on. People are outside protesting right now to this day because they ain't being paid right. But America is got soldiers up in the East right now because of what's going on. And it's just crazy because, again, viewed as, how can people just sit and look at a group of people and view them as invaluable? When Nick started playing, and they got on Nick and they got on Royale, because them were the only two who did not take a knee. Everybody took a knee, including Meg. And Royale stated his piece. I disagree with Royale, but he stated his piece. And Nick said the only reason why he kept standing because Royale didn't kneel. He didn't want Royale to be the only one who didn't kneel. But when they started yelling at Nick, saying, go back to where you came from, and they started chanting ICE at him, that was the most ignorant thing I have ever seen in my life. And I know all of this is a dramatization, but stuff like that happens in real life. People say things like that in real life. And the crazy part is, about all of that, they was chanting that, and that boy was from Puerto Rico, and that is definitely a part of the United States. They didn't know that, but it's just the ignorance because he didn't look like them. They thought he was from somewhere else. And I just wish, like, the ignorance would just stop. I just wish it would stop. Because all of it is based in fear, because people are scared that another group is going to do better than the other group. And it's throughout history, time and time again, Black people feel like they keep getting chin checked and are being told to shut up. And that's why they feel like they have to do something. They feel passionate about things. They get angry. Because no other person, no other group of people in this country have had to continuously go through something over and over and over again and then be told to shut up about it. Just take it and shut up. And it's crazy. And then when they try to celebrate and have a good time, they get told, don't do that. They got bad calls that whole game. Just because they took a knee to stand up for what they believe in. And that's why people, I don't understand why people don't get it. You can't stand up and pledge allegiance to something and everything that something is supposed to stand for and symbolize, that's not happening. And again, everything that Black people have done for in this country, it was only so people of other groups could run. And then just thinking about the history of America, like every group has had to go through something, whether it was the natives, what happened with the Trail of Tears, the Hawaiians, what happened in Hawaii, whether it was the Mexicans, whether it was the Chinese, whether it was the Japanese, whether it was the Koreans, the Filipinos, whether it was the Latinos, and with the Blacks. Every single group. And I just hate that the narrative has to be this way. I hate that it takes for something to be depicted on. I hate that they even have to sit here and tell a story like this to depict it on screen just so people could get it. And my heart goes out to all those families who lost someone during the panorama, because of the panorama. Because my heart goes out to people who lost people during those injustices. Those boys in that episode felt the need that they had to get off that bus and join the protest after that whole day they had. They had a day. At that point, everybody on that bus needed to go to counseling the next day. They needed to go to prayer, and then they needed to go to counseling after it. Because that was a lot. That was a day. And then when they got back to school or wherever their parents were picking up from, the parents was mad that the kids went through that. I mean, they was mad that the coaches had them out there like that. But what could they do? The kids felt compelled to do something. This episode was good. Both of those episodes were good. If y'all hadn't, watch Swagger. Swagger is a good show. I just feel like this show, there's so many things that go on with sports, that are tacked on with sports. And that's another thing, like, people always say, oh, well, this is just sports. Leave all the other stuff out of it. But then stuff like that go on while they playing the sport. How? How can you leave that out of there? How? How could you do that? But watch Swagger. Swagger is such a good show. It's probably one of the best sports shows like I have ever watched. And y'all know the current sports show on at the time now is All American. So this is no diss to All American. Kudos to All American. But watch Swagger. You know what I'm saying? Swagger is good. And run the ratings up. I don't think the people right now can promote the show from what I'm seeing on Twitter. I know a lot of actors and actresses right now are standing in solidarity with the writers. So, y'all run them numbers up. And streaming companies and y'all out there, Hollywood, pay them people. Them people is what's getting y'all the big bucks. So that y'all can live these lifestyles that y'all have. Pay them people. Them people deserve it. Writing good stuff like that. Bringing success to your network. Pay them people. They deserve it. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll be back with more videos for Swagger. Deuces.